あれ。
映画の撮影よね。
He had previously brought world peace to the lands, but got reincarnated into another world. Now, after he finally adapted to his environment and secured a girl, he sees the summoning circle appear again, calling for him. Being the hero he is, he follows suit and embarks on the journey he once did, this time as a veteran. Episode 1. Looking off into the distance is Setsu, a high school boy with too many girls for him to remember. With this girl claiming to be his childhood friend, he acknowledges her existence despite how much of a boss he is. He tells the girl Yuhi that she is one of his closest friends in this lifetime. He wonders what is going on in his other world, but as he does, a summoning circle calls for him. He then teleports to a strange land alongside the rest of his class, who are unsure what's going on. Then suddenly a group of knights emerge, looking for blood from the students. They think it's a movie shoot, but Setsu knows what's going on. Instead of backing down, he flicks the knight away from him with a simple tap. He grabs his girl's hand and urges her to run with him to safety. As they run, Yuhi notices another group of soldiers before them, so she stops in her place. To their surprise, however, the men are on their side, attacking the knights instead of the students. With quick work, they use magic and combat skills to take down the knights, thus saving the group of students. To Setsu's surprise, the war that he thought he ended years ago still happens to be going on. As he grabs his chest, a girl emerges and informs them they are the royal knights who will protect them. Following this, the leader of the knights leads his army into battle, slaying the remainder of the night demons. Yuhi notices how strong they are, so she decides to follow them alongside Setsu. After this, they enter the royal capital where the king stands before them. He informs them that they are heroes summoned from another world who will save their kingdom. During this, Setsu remembers the last time he solved their cross, it being 5 years ago. After the nobles tell the students their demands, they wonder if they should risk their lives for some random war. They then tell the students there is no rush to decide, them offering a room while they think. Setsu, on the other hand, seems sure of what he needs to do already. He decides to take on training and go outside to attend the training sessions. Here, all of the top military officers show the students how to use the sword and magic. Setsu notices that Yuhi is able to use magic during their training while he is slacking off. He loiters around the capital until the captain approaches him, asking why he is slacking off during war. She notices how calm he is and asks why he reminds her of a hero that was around years ago. Despite this, she informs him that he needs to train and be ready if he wants to survive. Setsu then offers her to show him what she is talking about instead of just using her words. Following this, she dashes forward to strike Setsu, but he dodges and spanks her. Before we continue, let's take a moment to answer the question of the day. How would you feel if you got violated like this? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out in the next video. Now, back to the recap. He asks if she remembers him now, to which she does. She bows down before him and tells him she has been waiting a long time for his return. With hearts in her eyes, she follows anything Setsu says, showing he must have raised her well. She then offers to become his chair while calling him Master. Glein, the fellow captain, sees this and asks what she is doing in such a pose. She explains that this man before them is the hero who saved them previously. After he learns of this, he rushes over to Thea to tell her, but she seems to have already known. She tells Setsu that despite his change in appearance, she would always recognize his magic. Once they all greet each other, he tells them he is finally home. Although he has returned, he realizes that while he was gone, everything has gone wild. With the war against the demons still ongoing despite his previous efforts, he prepares for war again. They then head outside to talk more, where Setsu explains why he looks so different. With him originally being in the other world after he defeated the demon lord, he was reincarnated into the other world as a new person. Although he was transported into the other world, he retained all of his powers and memories. The others tell him that despite his change, they will treat him like how they used to know him. Setsu then asks the others why the knights they were fighting were cursed knights. With him thinking to have killed the master of curses, he questions how there could still be spawning monsters with curses. Then suddenly a grunt emerges, asking Glein to get back to work, so he says goodbye to the others. Following this, Thea tells Setsu that she is glad for him to finally be back. During this, the king talks with his top officials, declaring war against the demon clan. Glein, however, protests his decision, asking them for more time to train the heroes. Despite this, however, the king insists, telling the others that the hero from 5 years ago could save them, so this many heroes surely can. Yuhi, on the other hand, finally gets a hold of her magic, gaining the ability to slice targets. Then Setsu emerges and tells her that she has a real knack for magic. After Yuki talks with him a bit, she asks him if she is training her magic to hurt people. Setsu is unsure what to say, so he stays quiet, letting Yuhi do the talking. Later that night, Setsu meets with Glein again, who informs him that they will have to go to war despite his efforts. Setsu doesn't care, however, him being able to stop the war himself. He declares to the others that if they won't stop their progress, then he will make them. After hearing this, the others offer to help him in any way they can. He tells them, however, he will go alone, it being too dangerous to take his friends with him. He informs them that if Toma, the previous demon lord, really is the one behind this, then he can't take any risks. Before he heads out, however, Setsu needs to get some weapons to conquer the demon army himself. With the access being restricted, they are forced to take some robust methods in order to get what they need. While they do this, Yuhi notices them and wonders what's going on. Setsu, on the other hand, finally gets to the vault where the sword he once wielded awaits him. Eventually, however, they get discovered by the guards, so they are forced to rush out. Glein offers to take the lead in stalling the others, which gives Setsu enough time to escape. Now that he has his sword, Setsu prepares to head out, without saying goodbye to Yuhi. Because she saw him earlier, she notices him leaving, so she runs to see what he is doing. Setsu explains to her that this is his second time doing this, so she doesn't need to worry. Despite this, Yuhi persists, trying to go along with him, but he rejects her request. He tells her that he cares too much about her to put her in war with her. This makes her realize how caring he is, so she tells him to close his eyes. Once he does, she refreshes his face with magic, making him wonder what the point of that was. He smacks her in the head and tells her not to play with fire, followed by wishing her a goodbye. Episode 2. Years back at a merchant store, a black-haired man appeared to buy an old pendant. Despite protesting to sell it, he ended up folding when the man presented a large sum of money. After this lesson, the old man tells the girl to always take money over pride. This old geezer ended up passing away shortly after, leaving the money to his relatives. Ruri, the granddaughter, decides to fulfill his final wish during her lifetime. Following this, she travels through the forest in the death of the night until her horse starts acting up. It suddenly stops and refuses to go any further, revealing a group of monsters close by. She gets knocked off the wagon and the pendant she's supposed to deliver gets knocked out. Thankfully, she is able to save it and get back on the road, or so she thinks. When she gets her stuff back together, a hog is seen waiting for her to hand over her goods. She offers to give it food and money, but it doesn't stop its advances on her. To her surprise, however, Setsu is there to save the day, asking if she is all right. Ruri assumes he wants her money, so she gets scared of the man. She tells him that her grandfather always told her that money solved her problems. She then remembers the man as someone similar to the owner of the black pendant. She keeps this to herself, however, instead telling Setsu she is okay now. After hearing this, Setsu tries to run off, but he is stopped by Ruri, asking him to protect her. She tells him she has an important item to deliver, but she is scared of the forest. Once he sees this young girl in distress, he decides to help her out by offering to be her bodyguard. As they wander the forest, Ruri demands that Setsu doesn't try anything on her. The next day, they finally arrive at the port town of the country, filled with various items. Setsu explains to Ruri that he hasn't been here in a long time. With hopes of crossing the ocean, when they try to get a boat across, they are denied access. Ruri doesn't give up, however, asking every captain to take her to the demon continent. However, with war going on between the two, nobody accepts her proposal, making her wonder what to do. Setsu sees her struggling, so he goes to help. When the royal guards come to inspect her, they demand to see her merchant license, hoping to find something wrong to persecute her. After inspecting her, they ask to see what's inside the bag, but she resists their inspection. She informs them it's something valuable, so she can't hand it over, but the guards persist. They try to steal it, but Setsu steps in to stop them. He introduces himself as her bodyguard, but the men don't back down. They ready their weapons, so Setsu does the same, showing he isn't planning on backing down. Once they start clenching their swords, people start gathering, making the guards back off. Following this, Ruri jumps into Setsu's hands, asking him to let her repay him somehow. They then head to eat dinner joyfully, despite not finding anyone to take them across the sea. Ruri then asks how he knew they would stand down, to which Setsu explains he has a high connection in the military. He then asks Ruri what she will do, knowing nobody will ever take her across the ocean. She tells him she'll buy her own boat then, but this forces Setsu to help her out. He then tells her they need an inn first before they put his plan in motion. Once they arrive at the inn, Ruri finally pulls out the pendant from her bag. This draws Setsu's attention, so he offers to protect it for Ruri while she is in the bath. Setsu accepts, and once inspecting the item inside, he realizes why she is protecting it so much. She tells a little more about the pendant and how it was made by her grandfather. He was a famous ringmaker that made the best rings all across the land. Then one day he received a gem with a note asking him to make a pendant out of it for him. Despite taking this job on, he didn't have much time left to live, so he was unable to deliver it himself. Before he passed, however, he would always tell Ruri that money is the most important thing in life. With this, he presented the pendant to her, asking her to claim all the money left on the pendant. For Ruri, this is more than enough reason for her to risk her life to keep the pendant safe. Then once she goes inside for the bath, Setsu takes a closer look at the pendant. He notices a spell placed on the pendant by none other than himself. Despite this, however, the spell is broken, making him wonder what ended up happening. Later that night, the two shared a bed, but were interrupted when the royal guards barged into the inn. They demand to see Setsu and Ruri, claiming there is reason to believe they are spies from the demon lorddom. Following this, they head into their room, but Setsu moves too fast, jumping out the window with Ruri. The guards search and search, eventually leading them to Setsu. Setsu, however, dodges their advances easily and begins playing tricks with them. He throws trash all over the guards and makes the perfect escape alongside Ruri. Although they got away, they ended up at a dead end, cornering them by the guards. The guards demand an apology from them, but Setsu informs Ruri that they will be leaving soon. Setsu then jumps off the bridge and summons a large sea serpent who offers to give Setsu a ride across the ocean. After witnessing this, all the guards question reality, wondering if they are dreaming. Episode 3. While they travel, they encounter various monsters. However, the sea serpent, Levia, is able to easily subdue them. He then formally introduces Levia, a sea god and ultimate serpent that reigns over the oceans. Ruri is stunned to see how impressive his friend is, but she is mad at him. Levia asks Setsu why he just stood around watching her fight the entire time. He tries to explain himself, but they are diverted when Ruri points out the large squid sitting ashore. Levia orders Setsu to take care of it, so he does, making delicious food. By summoning in a large pot and all the ingredients to make fried rings, he satisfies the girls. While they eat, they talk about the demon lord's tower in the distance. Levia tells Ruri that without the guards, she would be in big trouble. Levia then explains that the package she is delivering is the demon lord, so they need to be cautious. With this, Levia tells the others she won't be going with them, but Setsu protests. He asks her to come along with him, but she tells him that she already gave him a ride. She asks what more he expects from her, but he is interrupted by some demon children asking if he is arguing with his wife. Setsu gets angry and gives them food, hoping they will run away after giving them some. To his surprise, however, the kids tell Setsu they are going to tell their parents and family to come get some. They then convince him to take the whole squid with him to their village to cook for them. While this happens, the villagers talk about how bad their situation is because of a big squid. With it destroying all of their boats, it limits their trading. Then suddenly, as they talk, Setsu emerges with the large squid monster causing an uproar. To celebrate the defeat of this monster, they throw a party for Levia, praising her efforts. They offer her various food from the village, hoping to impress the sea god. She tells some of them it's good, while others their dish is terrible. Setsu, on the other hand, spends his time cooking his squid rings for the village. Thanks to his sword and talents, he is able to quickly cook for the entire village. He doesn't stop here, however, cooking all of the squid until he can't anymore. While this happens, a villager notices the party going on and assumes it's an invasion. He runs towards the village, prepared to fight after witnessing a small fire. During this, Ruri gets real sleepy and tells Levia to sit down and chat with her, acting like a drunk. Levia grabs herself a drink and goes to sit down with Ruri and explain her relationship with Setsu. She tells him that 5 years ago, Setsu tried to go through her territory and defeated her. After this, he offered her to help him from time to time, so the two became friends with a mutual benefit. Levia then explains that Setsu is the hero from 5 years ago, which makes Ruri stunned. She wonders why someone as powerful as him would agree to be her bodyguard. Levia explains that Setsu is pretty laid back, so she has nothing to worry about. Years back, Levia had promised Setsu to protect the oceans, but he suddenly disappeared. This causes Ruri to ask Levia of how she feels about Setsu. She looks at him and smiles, which makes Ruri tell her that she is in love with Setsu. Levia denies it, telling her that she has simply been friends with him for a long time. Following this, the Imperial Guard barges in and demands an explanation for who is attacking the village. To his surprise, however, nothing is going on, so they offer him a squid ring to calm down. The day goes by, and eventually the party ends, leaving Setsu to find something to do. During this, Livia sits by the ocean and thinks of Setsu with Ruri by her side. Then Brad, the Imperial Solider, emerges and apologizes to Livia. Setsu appears and asks Brad what the Demon Lord is thinking about going to war. Brad explains that he protests it, but can't do anything about it with his position. He then bows down and begs for Setsu and Livia to save the Demon Lord. He explains that the Demon Lord is being forced to marry a girl who is cursed. With the addition of even a collar, the Demon Lord is bound to this relationship and curse. He continues explaining that the war began because of the humans. A few years back, the human empire invaded the demon territory and forced the war to stop. After this happened, a man named Terran appeared and took advantage of the war, trapping the Demon Lord. Brad tells Setsu that Terran is as powerful as he is, urging him to be careful, with Terran not only having the Demon Lord in chokehold, but also being the most powerful merchant in the world. He is standing on business. Setsu, however, doesn't care, telling Brad that he should take Terran down himself. Livia explains to Setsu that she is only agreeing to keep the peace within the lands. Although she was originally against going to the Demon Lord's castle, after hearing this, she follows Setsu. They run through the various terrain until they get close to the castle. Before they are able to enter, however, monsters emerge and show them it won't be easy to get inside. However, with the combined power of Livia and Setsu, a few monsters stand no chance. Livia then asks what their plan is to stop this all, to which Setsu tells her he plans to crush them. He explains that when he entered the world, there was a strange curse, meaning if they killed Terran, they should be fine. Eventually, after a long journey, they arrive at the base of the Demon Lord's castle. Before we continue, let's take a moment to shout out the winner of the last video's top comment, Bull Difference 686. Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out in the next video. Let's get back to the recap. Episode 4. Desus, the Demon Lord, spent her time fighting to keep the peace in her time until a hero emerges. This hero not only helped her and the demon people, but every race there is. This man is Setsu, the same man who put the spell on the pendant given to her. She surrendered herself to him, hoping he would keep her safe, but when he disappeared, everything went wrong. Despite not knowing if she would ever meet him again, Desus decided to keep her promise with Setsu to try and preserve the peace. She would spend her time talking with the people of her town, showing they all loved her. 5 years after the original war, she would have misfortune happen, her pendant being destroyed. She plays it off as claiming it to be used too much, so she sent it off to be repaired. Following this, Desus's headquarters were invaded, making her wonder who could dare pull such a move. She sends out her strongest guards to protect the place, hoping to keep Setsu's promise. Following this, the military is dispatched, making the soldiers wonder why they ever trusted the humans. They talk about how, despite having to go to war, they will be rewarded when they return. Desus wishes she could stop the invaders herself, but she is unable to because of her missing the pendant. It is then learned that Terran is the invader into the palace, forcing the others to let him in. Once Terran gets inside, he starts with explaining his demands to Desus, trying to come off as friendly. When she reads the fine print, however, she learns that she is contracted to become his slave. Terran then presents a cursed object, informing Desus that she is to wear this to ensure their marriage. He explains that it cost him a small fortune to buy this, showing that he is serious about marrying her. Brad protests this, however. Desus tells him she wants to think about it before making a decision. After hearing this, Terran leaves, allowing Desus to think long and hard about whether to accept his proposal. Then Brad enters her room and tells her that he's prepared to fight to his death for her, asking her not to give herself up. Desus, however, tells him that she has a promise to keep, putting that before everything else. Once he leaves, she can only think about Setsu, wishing he would come to save her. While this happens, Terran meets with a shady figure, informing him that they have the demon continent in their palms. The shady figure, however, has different plans, telling Terran things won't go so smoothly. Eventually, the day of the wedding emerges, causing lots of commotion. With some people happy for the marriage and others opposing it, there is no way to know how it will turn out. One thing is certain, however, Desus is an absolute baddie. As she walks down the aisle, everyone glances at her beauty, making Terran think he made the right decision. With the two both ready to get married, the priest announces the vows, ensuring that they love each other. Terran starts by presenting his cursed necklace to the crowd, claiming that he will bring eternal peace as the Demon Lord's bride. He then announces himself as the new Demon King and asks for everyone to clap for him. After telling the crowd all of this, he presents the necklace to Desas, to which she is ready to accept her fate. Taran then goes to put the necklace on, causing Desas to think of only Setsu. Then suddenly the stained glass breaks and a man emerges from the window. Setsu appears and tells Desas that he has come to save her. Taran, on the other hand, is stunned to see his sudden appearance, ordering his shady men to kill Setsu. The men, however, are no match for Levia, who takes them down with ease. She tells Desas they have come to save her, but she is stopped when the leader of the shady men emerges. He uses his magic to bind Levia, giving him an opening to strike her vital spots. Before the attack lands, however, Setsu destroys the attack and knocks the man to the ground. After doing this, the shady man tells Setsu that he is glad the mighty hero Setsu arrived. He continues attacking, but Setsu is too strong, playing around with him like a fiddle. Having gotten beat down, the shady figure leaves, making Taran the only bad guy remaining. Desas, on the other hand, runs to Setsu's side and asks him why he left her. He tells her that he was busy while hugging her, but they are interrupted by Levia. She points at the other shady men, but to his surprise, they disappear before his eyes. Desas then informs Setsu that it must be Tuma's actions, him being the only one with strong curse magic. Then Brad and Ruri finally get there, just in time to miss everything that happened. Once entering, Ruri presents the pendant to Setsu, asking him to return it himself. Setsu accepts her request and presents the pendant he once gave to Desas to her once again. She gladly accepts it, and the two's bond grows close again like it once was. Episode 5. When Setsu and Yuhi first met, their interactions were quite awkward, with Setsu acting too cool to act like a kid. They had a hard time finding things relatable. Despite this, however, Setsu would continue helping her with things she needed. One day on the way home, they spotted a sign up for a cram school, which made her wish Setsu could go to it with her. Setsu observed this as well, but thought it was too childish for him to do. Yuhi asks him what he thinks of it, but he tells her that it's probably easier to just not do it. He explains that the more things she does, the more danger she puts herself in. After hearing this, Yui got frustrated, so she left Setsu, wishing he could understand her feelings. On the way home from her summer school, she looks at her paper, but sees that she still has a bad grade. To help with this bad mood, a group of thugs approach her asking if she wants to have some fun. They tell her that she needs to forget about school and just hang out with them. Setsu notices this and emerges, telling the thugs to back off from his girl. They apologize and walk home, wishing they could end their sad virgin lifestyles. Setsu, on the other hand, tells Yuhi that the guys are right. If she is dumb, then she can't change it. Following this, she is unsure how to respond, so the situation gets awkward between the two. Despite this, however, Yuhi builds up the courage to ask Setsu to just be with her more. After she tells him this, he realizes what he needs to do, so he offers to always be by her side. Ever since that day, Yuhi has always wanted to thank Setsu because, deep down, she is in love with him. Back at the human continent, the so-called heroes practice their magic, barely scratching the surface of their power. Yuhi, on the other hand, has a firm control over her mana, giving her strong powers. They are then released from training, leaving Yuhi to wonder what to do. She decides to go and talk with Glein and Elka, the military commanders in charge of training them. She tells them she wants to know more about Setsu's past life and how he came to meet them. Elka explains that although he has helped her a lot and she wants to be with him, she persists in her training. Once she hears this, Yuhi tells her that she also wants to be with Setsu, so she wants extra training. Elka sees her resolve, so she takes her to the top of the wall to show her the kingdom Setsu built. She explains that Setsu has always been there for everyone up until his disappearance. Yuhi then gets emotional and challenges Elka, hoping to prove her love for Setsu. Elka, however, also loves him deeply, so she doesn't let up, showing Yuhi how a real warrior fights. As the two continue to clash, Elka eventually stops the duel and tells Yuhi that she has grown very strong since coming. She explains that although she is strong, there is something she seriously lacks. Elka then guides her to the depths of the palace to find monsters to train with. Eventually, Elka informs her that something is coming, making her jump back. The water starts to erupt, and a large crocodile jumps out before them. Elka tells Yuhi that she needs to fight rather than cower down. She hesitates but eventually is forced to attack after the crocodile jumps at her. She roasts it alive, but it isn't enough to take it down, so she attacks it again. After this attack, the crocodile thinks twice about rushing her while Elka orders her to finish it. She tells Yuhi that in war she can't hesitate if she wants to protect those who she loves. Following this, Elka finishes off the monster for her, knowing she isn't ready to kill just yet. With her failing Elka's test, Yuhi realizes that the thing lacking is her resolve. Upon learning this, she decides to make a change in her life, but first she meets with Thea. She heals her with her magic, allowing Yuhi to get ready for battle again. Following this, Thea tells Yuhi not to push herself too hard, even if Elka makes her do a crazy task. She explains that despite how she looks, they have all been through a lot, telling Yuhi that if she is rough, then she means well. Thea then asks Yuhi why she is so adamant at being by Setsu's side. Yuhi reveals her backstory, having always been looked after by Setsu. Thea realizes that she is trustworthy, so she leaves her to rest for the day. Elka, on the other hand, is seen waiting outside, too nervous to explain what Thea told her. She tells Thea that she wishes she could help her, but knows she needs to learn how to survive on her own. She wonders what she can do to help her improve, but is unable to find a solution. Glein, on the other hand, wanders around the palace until he stumbles upon Yuhi. He talks to her about killing their enemies, asking if she thinks she will ever be able to. She then asks him how he is able to have such strong resolve to kill without hesitation. Glein explains that it's all in the mind, telling her that if she is determined to overcome her weaknesses, then she will. Yuhi thinks about this and decides to give her training another shot, to which she is stunned. With her determination being sound, her magic thrives, encasing the training grounds in flames. Once Elka witnesses this, she determines to give her another shot at proving her worth. They head into the sewers again, but this time Yuhi is different. With a single fireball, she encases the monster in flames and takes it out. Elka recognizes her efforts and congratulates her for improving so much, telling her she is almost ready to stand beside Setsu. The next day, the student heroes are told that the following day they will be heading out for the war. Rather than being fearful, Yuhi gets excited, hoping to see Setsu on the battlefield alongside her and the others. Episode 6. Setsu, on the other hand, travels around hoping to solve the world's problems with Livia. With her happy to be with Setsu, he has a blast traveling. Livia informs Setsu that she is acting leisurely because she is planning on giving him a ride across the ocean, meaning he has to protect her. She tells him that thanks to her, travel is much easier than it could ever be, so he needs to appreciate her. She then asks him for all his snacks as a reward for her presence. Suddenly someone boards the wagon, and to Setsu's surprise, he has met the demon girl before. He introduces her as Elise the crybaby, asking her how she has been. Elise then starts tearing up, telling Setsu that she isn't a crybaby anymore and she has missed him. Setsu explains that last time he was here, the two of them traveled together from time to time. Elise then announces herself as the #1 disciple of Setsu, claiming she is his favorite. Alzi's sister then introduces herself as Armel, a fellow demon. Setsu then asks when she became her sister, not previously being sisters. Elise then asks where Setsu has been the past 5 years, which gains everyone's attention. He explains that he was transferred to another world, but he is back and ready to save the world again. Setsu then asks Elise if she can join them on their journey, her previously being a big help. Elise, however, informs them that they are in a pickle currently, so they can't help him. Elise explains that one day she accepted a request from her guild to a small town. Upon arriving, they treated her well, providing her an entire house. Inside the house, however, lives Armel, who welcomes Elise with open arms. The two become acquainted with each other, forming the bond that they have today. As they talk, Armel explains that although she looks similar, she isn't from this village. She tells Elise that ever since the dragon came to the village, her brother has been missing. Armel assures her, however, that she is fine without him, having survived on her own thus far. Elise realizes her suffering, so she offers to lend a hand to Armel to rescue her brother. With the two of them staying together, Elise offered to become her older sister to make her feel a bit more relaxed. This explains the whole backstory of how Elise is tied to Armel and why they are in a bad situation. Elise tells them, however, that her brother isn't the only one who has disappeared because of the dragon. After learning that this is a real problem, Setsu wonders if he should just take down the dragon. Previously, Elise had tried to capture the dragon by luring it into the village. Armel protested it, but Elise was sure that her plan would work out just fine. Eventually, the dragon did emerge, allowing Elise to face it head-on and injure it. Despite getting a hit on the dragon, she was unable to catch up in time to deliver the final blow.